Now today we are going to see simple connection pooling. Once again, once we're done with this connection pooling, I'll come back to this discussion. Okay, I'll come back to this discussion. Let me give you connection pool example. Importance of connection pool. Try to understand. Generally, to connect with the database. Okay, before going there, to connect with database. Okay, connect to database. How many of you are aware of JDBC? You all know about the JDBC, right? Yes, or type no if you don't know. Yes, everyone. We know these. Yes, Vasu, yes, Nitin, yes, Mayank, yes. And who's this waiting for name? Sailesh is no. May I know who is this waiting for name? What is your name? Okay, Shravani. So, yeah, fine. Now, let me give you basic example for this JDBC. Connected to database. Java API, Java, right? Java provided one API to connect with database. Database is a different system, right? A different software. But databases will play a very crucial role in any application. They will secure our data. To keep our information securely, permanently, we need databases. Any program should able to connect with databases to secure data or to secure your information, to save your information. So databases will provide tables. In the form of tables, you can keep your information. Let's say you are doing student registration, student management system. To keep students data permanent and secure, I need a database with student table, so that my Java can connect with database and it can securely save the information. Not only Java, any programming language, any technology, they should have database connectivity support. Java also providing such support to connect with databases. So in Java, they given one API for this particular support, JDBC API. Java given one API called JDBC API, Java Database Connectivity API. JDBC full form Java Database Connectivity API. So using this Java Database Connectivity API, what you can do, your application, right? Your Java application, your application or your Java app can connect with any database. It can connect with any database. All you need is JDBC here. You need to use JDBC here to connect with them. Without JDBC, you can't connect. Here you need JDBC API. What job it will do? JDBC API. JDBC API will do two tasks. One, it will create connection to database. First thing, it will create connection to database. And the second thing, JDBC can execute SQL queries on database. It can execute SQL queries. It can get connections from database and it can execute SQL queries. Which SQL queries you can execute using JDBC? all database queries. Database will have generally, mainly importantly, we will have DML queries, data manipulations, insert some data or update data or delete data, data manipulations. All this we call DML operations. So you can execute all DML, DRL, retrieval operations. Select data from database and DDL also if you want to create table or alter tables or rename tables. All such stuff you can execute. DML, DDL, DRL queries you can execute. Not only that, using JDBC you can execute. Databases also can have, like your Java, they can have procedures, functions. You can call that procedures, functions, triggers, views, database side technologies, all these are. You can call them as well. You can call them as well. You can call them as well. So using JDBC, you can perform anything, which generally to connect with database, databases will provide some SQL consoles, DB SQL console, MySQL console, or DB, you know, to connect with Oracle console. So like how we perform from SQL window, how we perform all SQL operations, same stuff by connecting with Java also you can do. Importantly, if you can able to do that, you can able to connect with the front end also, right? So we can connect with the views, whatever data we are getting from front end, we can read it in Java layer and Java connect with the databases, and all front end required operations I can able to execute it. As end user will not interact with the database with SQL queries. He don't know about it. Even he don't care about it. So what all I need to do, I should aware of basic SQL so that I can use that SQL queries to save the front end user data. If he is submitting some data from here, I can able to save that data. I can able to retrieve already saved data. I can update existing data. I can delete data. And if I have large business inside procedures functions also, I can able to run that. But main importantly, you should learn how to connect with database and how to execute basic queries on database. Okay, database is a separate software that you need to install. How many types of databases we have? Generally, databases are again two types. Many types we have, but we categorize them like SQL databases, which is having SQL engine, and no SQL databases, which are not having SQL engine. SQL and no SQL databases. Databases categorized two types. For secure information and for more transactions, we will use SQL databases like Oracle database, MySQL, Postgres, DB2. IBM provides DB2, MySQL open source, Oracle DB. So many databases if you try to explore, just Google it. NoSQL databases like MongoDB, I think Cassandra providing NoSQL. Check out what all NoSQL databases you have. Popularly MongoDB. So basically, NoSQL databases will save information into as documents. Information will be saved as a document. Information will be saved as a document, whereas SQL databases will store information as a structure, or you can say tables. Like tables, it will store your information in SQL databases, whereas NoSQL databases will save it as document. It will keep your information as documents. So SQL databases are strict. They don't allow new data. Whereas NoSQL databases, if it is pre-structured, SQL is pre-structured. Let's say a table is having student name, student email, student address. Only that three parameters always it will allow. Name, email, address. Extra field if you add, I will enter my pin code, will you accept? No. It will say you don't have that field in table. Whereas in document databases, that will continuously can change its structure. So when we see, a requirement like continuous changes are happening on the structure from front end, lot of data I'm getting, and that is not fixed every time it is changing, then maybe it is preferable to use NoSQL databases like insurance, especially insurance domain, right? There they will continuously change data. Or if you think about artificial intelligence and machine learning, they will learn new stuff and they may need more dynamic structure always to change. So maybe SQL, if I use SQL, lot of queries I need to run, it may give low performance. If you go with NoSQL, it will accept any kind of structure, so it will save it. So their NoSQLs are very popular when continuous structure changes. Okay, if I keep that aside, to connect with them, I need a API. Their Java providing JDBC API. So using JDBC, you can connect with any database. I'll give you, if you install Arkle, right? Arkle 10G, okay, you can download. I'll give you link. Arkle 10G, 10G, 21. Arkle 10G. Old versions if I need. Somewhere I shared with. Just a minute. I'll share you that link. It is very useful for your practice. Okay. Somewhere I shared with students. I'm just sharing. Just a minute. I'm sharing you one link if you guys wants to download. Okay. Download from this link. Try it. Okay. So download it and install it. Once you install 10G Express Edition, okay, when you search home, once after installation, you will get it, okay. Here, once you enter username password, you can log into your database. So here you can do all that tables creation stuff, inserts, updates. This is Arkle window, okay. So here you can create table. Let's say if you want to save something permanently, you need table. Create table, student, spring student, 2024, something table name, ID, data type will give number, name, varchar2, and size also we will give email varchar 2 size we will give address. Like your Java data types, here also you'll have data types. Table is created, table created. So in this table you can insert data also. Insert into table values 1 name email address. We can put data here. Address. For strings we will use single quotes. One row is inserted. One row is inserted. So you can select and check the data. Select star from. So this is select operation. First is create table, then next insert. Now I am selecting it. So you can see one table is there with the data. So this is how we'll create tables in database side. Now if you want to connect with this database and your information, if you want to store from Java side, you can do that. Let me give you an example. As you all aware, may feel boring, but it's okay. Give me 10 minutes. I'll conclude. Now I want to connect with the same table from Java and insert some data. So in Java, two steps you need to perform to connect with the database. First, you need to load a driver. Select, get the connection. Get the connection and execute your queries. Execute SQL queries. Load a driver, get the connection, execute queries. Using JDBC API, we will perform them. New project, simple Java project, JDBC with Arkel. So here you need Arkel driver. So first step I'm saying load the driver, right? Who will provide this driver? Arkel database. So Arkel database driver you need to add here first. Build path, configure build path, add external jars for Arkel. Here you OJDBC 14. This is the jar file which help you to connect with Arkel database. Here actually your driver class is there. Apply and close. Now I'll give you an example here. JDBC test. Creating some test package. JDBC insert. I'll write insert query here. Main method. First you need to get connection. It will throw a lot of compile time exceptions. So always you put your JDBC code inside try catch block. So you will not see any errors. First load driver class dot for name Oracle dot JDBC dot Oracle driver. So this is the driver class. We added a jar file, right? In that jar file, this class is there. You need to load it first. Then next, you need to get connection. Load driver. Second step, get connection. Driver manager dot get connection. So now from here, you are going to establish connection with this Oracle software. With this Oracle software, right? It will connect from your JDBC. For that, you need to give URL of your software. JDBC colon, Oracle colon, thin colon, where it is running in my local host. Local host. If it is there in remote machine, let's say database there in your machine, I need to give your host. Your machine IP address I should pass. Localhost colon 1521 is the port number. This is the database main schema. XE. And username password. Security, right? Database is secure. Without giving username password, it will not connect. Otherwise, anybody can connect and delete my data. So username, password I should give. So it will provide you one connection. Once you get the connection here, you can execute any operation. So as I said, I want to insert data, or let me do it here. Insert the data. How to do connection dot create a statement. These are the steps for inserting data. Okay, we need to create one statement. Using statement, there is a method called execute update. Same insert query as it is. You can place from Java also. Insert into student values. Second record. Then directly it will insert. Same SQL query, you need to pass here. Insert query. That's it. You are done. And carefully, what is this I'm doing in line number 12? Getting connection from database. Giving all security credentials here in this get connection method. And getting one connection. Once done with my job, I need to return it back. I got connection from database. I need to say database, hey, I am done. Close it. Close connection. Otherwise, database will have limited connections only. Without closing, if you get all the connections, you are done. You can't get new connections. Let's say if you have a Wi-Fi router, generally nowadays they are giving 50, 60 connections. But earlier we used to have 5 connections or 10 connections limit. Beyond that, if you try to connect with your router, it will say, no, you can't connect. Exceeded number of connections. Then we used to delete some connections or disconnect some devices, or we used to change password so everybody used to disconnect. Then we used to freshly connect them. Because if it exceeds more than connections which are registered in that device, it cannot able to provide new connections. Same way, your database also will register this connection, and it will treat, okay, there are some data coming and going from you. It will keep it open. But I'm done with my job here. You close it. So it will be given back to database. So whenever you require freshly, it will give you a new connection. So this is, you know, must you need to do it. So properly it will close connection. So now let's try to execute it. So for your understanding, I'll run it in debug mode. So I can see step by step what it is executing. Instead of plain run mode, debug mode. So I started. So first line number 1, class is loaded. In line number 13, get connection. Okay. I think we received connection also successfully from database. Fine. Next, execute this. Execute update will insert data. I think it is executed. Program also execution done. Terminated. See what happened, whether it is inserted my data from there, whichever I submitted. Yes, the record 2 got inserted here. See the magic. Your Java is able to connect with this database now. I did not perform this insert from SQL, but who did? Java did that for you. So now you can understand that this Java is a middleware for implementing softwares, right? Middleware softwares. Java helps you. Whatever data getting from front end, imagine that data you are passing here to save that data into database. So front end, middleware, back. So the Arcle backend, we connect from here and we save data. That's it. We got information from front end and we given it to database. That we able to perform by using this JDBC. That is where JDBC is very, very, very important. So not only inserts, you can do any operations here. This is insert. If you want to select also, you can select whichever data is inserted. If you want to select, if you want to select also, use this statement dot execute query method given select a star from table, whichever we are performing there to see the data. Select a star from table doing what? When I execute it is showing the data in tabular format. So when I execute this, it will give you result set. So you can get the data from this result set using while loop. You can print system.out.println name. Tabular format not required. Generally, you need data to perform other operations. So get string. You can get name, ID, email, and address. You got the data. If you run, you will see your data. Hmm? Invalid column index. Will it start from 1? Okay. First column, second column, third column, fourth column. I always confuse with these indexes. In arrays, it will start from 0. In JDBC1. Okay. So you have data here. Already 2 times, 3 times I executed the same insert. So duplicate data inserted. Finally, it is fetching all the data from database, whichever is inserted. Simple. You can do inserts or updates, deletes, anything you can perform on database using JDBC. That is where JDBC is very, 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 very important. Okay. What we learned in this JDBC, if I try to conclude, we can connect with the database and we can perform any SQL operations to secure my information. For that purpose, I need to load the driver, I need to get connection. So once I get connection, using that connection, I can execute my SQL queries. Finally, I should ensure to close connection, right? Open connection, execute queries, close connection, open connection, execute queries, close connection, open, execute, close, open, execute, close. This you need to perform always. But if I go with this old style of JDBC way of coding, I'll give you a use case. Okay, I have a app here, Swiggy, and here the front end mobile apps or web apps people end users are using. From you, they are placing orders. They are selecting some food and placing order. They are selecting some food and placing order. And they are placing order from here. When they click on place order, the request will come to your application. So here you know your controller service DAOs will execute. And finally, to keep this order information, when you go to history, you will be able to see all your orders in history, right? So somewhere it is saving it. So Swiggy must save it in database. Your orders information must save it in database in orders table. Your order ID, order name, what food you ordered, what is the price, how much discount you received. All that it will keep it into orders table. Orders table. Item name, discount if you applied, rating what you given, or is it cancelled or returned, cancel or return. So all that information they need to save for future purpose. So when I get a request every time, many users or millions of users continuously hit this application for placing orders. Just imagine per minute I'm counting, okay? For a minute, for every minute, ask ChatGPT or Google. Live information it doesn't have. A rough number we need. 137 orders for every minute. Swiggy reveals India's favorite dish. I don't think discount is real. 1.5 million orders in a day. Yeah, maybe they are averaging it. Yeah, Zomato clocked. Swiggy went 9,000 orders per minute. So per minute 9,000 orders it is receiving consider. So usually database, right, whichever Swiggy is using, database may not provide that many connections. It may have hardly 1,000 connections. Or it can automatically scale. Database softwares nowadays they are in cloud automatically when it reaches first to 1,000 users get connections. For the next users it may increase connections count to 2,000. But where it will stop that limit? Today maybe 500 users for every minute. Tomorrow thought 10,000 users. Day after tomorrow only 5 users. We don't know the probability, how many connections it required. Consider you have maximum to maximum connections of 1000 only. I want to utilize them properly in my application. I want to utilize them properly in my application. What I should do for it? If you go with the JDBC style of code here, JDBC style of code here, for every request, for the every minute, in the sense they are placing request parallelly. At a time, 9,000 requests came to my application. And if I am using JDBC, what it will do? It will go to database and it will ask for a connection. So first user out of 90,000, 9,000 first user will get connection. So once he get connection here, Java side Java will hold one connection and this side connections count will decrease to 999. By that time, first 1,000 users get the connections here. Here connections count will become 0. If it give all the connections, 1 to 1,000 connections it given, all 1,000 users requested for orders, so all 1,000 connections it given here. When it reaches number 1,000, my remaining connections count is what? 0. So what about for first to 1,000 users it given? Fine. So out of this 9,000, first to 1,000 users will get connection. So their orders will be placed. What about remaining, if I do minus 1,000, remaining 8,000 users? Their orders will fail. At a time they place a request, 1,000 connections it will give. So you will place order for first to 1,000 users. The remaining 8,000 users will get error. Maybe SQL connections not available. As soon as you see that, you might be hungry, you might switch to Zomato or other application, or you may start cooking. So if I use plain JDBC, that is the problem. For first 1,000 users, it can provide connections. And anyway, you will write logic to close connection also, but that will take long time. I got so many requests at a time. If I use plain JDBC, it cannot handle it. In JDBC, what we are doing, we are getting connection first, right? Get connection, then executing query. Finally, after done with all these, we return these connections back. We return it. When you apply connection dot close, then it will be returned it. But to go your code from get connection to connection close, it may take few seconds, at least 1 second or half second or quarter of your second. It will take, obviously. But meanwhile, many requests came to my application. How it can handle them? It cannot handle them. If I use plain JDBC code, it is not faster. It can connect, but not fastest one. To open connection and to close connection. To open connection and to close connection and to execute your query, it will take time. Consider for every operation, getting connection taking 1 by 4th of your second to get connection from database, 1 by 4th of the second, and to execute query 1 by 4th of the second, and to close the connection 1 by 4th of the second. So almost 3 by 4th of the second is consumed for one user to open connection, to close connection, and to execute connection. So within 1 second, if I get 10,000 users request, only for first 1,000 users, it can able to provide connections because 1,000 connections only maximum I have here. For the remaining 9,000 users, it will give errors saying no connections available. True. Within a second. To overcome this problem, we need to use connection pools. I'll show you advantages. First, let's see the same JDBC code. Simple JDBC test I'll write here, or whatever code you have here. Let me loop it. Same insert operation or the same code, I'll try to execute it repeatedly. I'll keep it in a for loop. For loop int I equal to 0. I less than I want to execute 2000 times. Consider 2000 users requested at a time. I plus plus. Just putting the same logic for 2000 times. Run it. So how many operations happening? One, getting one connection, one insert, one select, and finally connection close. And my database is having maximum connections, hardly 20, I think. Maximum 20 connections. Oracle database maximum 20 connections I have. That's it. But I'm trying to iterating 2000 loops. Why my code is terminated? So some loops it iterated and finally closed. Listener refused the connection. What happened? No appropriate service handler found. The connection descriptor used. It is saying listener refused. It is refusing your connection because it doesn't have connections. See how many records inserted. Earlier it was hardly 5 inserts. So let's see how many records you have count. Select count. I actually iterated 2000 times. So more than 2000 records I should have. But how many records I have here? 23 only. Why? After only 20 it failed. I returned JDBC code. The same, if it is JDBC, the similar code only you will be going to write in Swiggy app also. But not that much powerful. It is failing. So what I need to do instead of doing this way, I should use connection pools. What problems it will avoid if I use connection pool instead of JDBC, or what problems we have in JDBC. Problems in JDBC is problems in JDBC is problems in JDBC is to open connection and to close. It will take some time because it need to connect with the database sockets and it need to open connections and it need to close connection. It will take some time to open connections to close connections. In the meantime, when we get more than sufficient or when we get more requests than connections of database, it will refuse them with exception. It will refuse them with exceptions. It even can't ask them to wait. It can't able to hold them. It will immediately give the exceptions. Means your code will be terminated. Your execution will be terminated. As soon as exception gets, execution will terminate. So to overcome these problems, the solution is, this is the problem in JDBC. And the solution is connection pool. Solution is connection pool. How solution connection pool works? If I use connection pool, this is how it will work. The same Swiggy application work in this way. I have a Swiggy app. From front end, many users data orders I'm getting. Many users placing food orders. Consider here users at a time placing 25,000 per minute. 25,000 users per minute. All the requests will come to your application. Here I have same database with 20 connections. Same, consider my local database. 20 connections or 500 connections or 1000 connections. Whichever number you want to give. I have 20 connections only here, 20 max to max in my local. Using that 20 connections only, it need to insert all the orders information. Orders data, it should insert here. So first what I will do before this request placing into the system itself, during application startup itself, during my application Swiggy startup itself, I'll create a connection pool. One time, when you start your application, I'll create a connection pool. All these 20 connections I'll bring from there. All 20 connections I'll get it into my Java. So out of this 20, I'll procure everything, 0 connections is available. Or let's say 15 connections you get, leave 5 connections in database, whatever it is. 20 connections I'll get, so 0 connections here. Where I'll put the 20 connections into a Java pool. I'll bring that 20 connections and keep it in Java connection pool object. That is like a simple list object or set object or map object. Connection pool. I'll fetch all the connections at a time and I'll keep it into connection pool. This will be there in your Java side only during application start. While application start, get all connections, keep it in Java pool. Java side only, keep all your connections inside pool. Now 25,000 request placed. 25,000 requests placed. But how many connections I have? 20 only. Maximum to maximum 20 connections only I have here. So for first 20 users out of 25,000, for first 20 users, it will fetch connections from here. Earlier I used to get connection from database. Now connection will be get connection from connection pool. So you will get connection here. Using this connection you can execute your query. You can execute your SQL queries from here to database, and it will place your order information into table. Finally, once executed, the connection will be returned. Connection will be returned. Return the connection. Generally, earlier we used to close the connections, but now when we use connection pools, connections will be returned. Return connection. Return back connection to connection pool. For every user, it will get connection from connection pool. It will execute and it will return the connection. So what is the advantage? Out of 25,000 users, only first 20 users only requested. Their request is executed. What about remaining 24,980 requests? For them, will it throw any exception? No. While first 20 users executing, they will be in waiting. They will wait. Who will make them wait? Connection pool. Connection pool will make other users in queue. If maximum connections consumed from connection pool it will hold or make them wait in queue. If maximum connections consumed from connection pool, it will hold or wait others in queue. It can able to hold them. That you can configure how much holding time you want to put. You can give 2 minutes of holding time. How much time you want to hold or wait. You can keep that time. You can configure that time in connection pool. So it will not give you any exceptions. Once you place order, it will rotate your screen 2 minutes or 2 seconds. Within that time, for execution, it will take hardly half second or millisecond. So maybe hardly 0.1 millisecond or 2 milliseconds. It will execute this placing order. But to get connection and to return connection, it will not take any time, no time. Because it is there in Java side only. It is need not to travel to the database and to get the connection. Connections are available in Java side only. So within no time, it will not take time. Within no time, it will get connection, it will close connection. So now your SQL operations, imagine they will execute very faster. And every time it will not ask database to open sockets and to close sockets. All the available connections it bring to connection pool. So it will just use them until this application die or shut down. When you shut down your application for the maintenance, then it will return all the connections back. Until then, that connections will be there in connection pool only. Imagine if I have 20 connections itself that can handle 25,000 users. But in generally Swiggy kind of application will maintain hardly, or they might maintain more than 1000 to 2000 or 5000 connections. Generally, cloud will provide that auto scaling. Automatically, they will go up to 1000 or 2000 connections. 1000 or 2000 maximum limit, whatever you put. Still, you have maximum limit of 20 or 1000. It's okay. I can get all that connections into connection pool and I can utilize them properly without any exceptions. You execute 1 million requests. It will not fear with exceptions. It will execute comfortably. See earlier how many it is inserted this code with JDBC? Only 23 records. I requested for 2000 iterations. See the same thing I'll execute with connection pool. Connection pool insert I will do. We'll discuss more deep in about connection pool. Okay. Who are all the providers and how we are creating. I'll create simple connection pool. Data source is a interface is equal to new Apache library Tomcat, you know, right? Apache organization given one connection pool implementation. Apache DBCP we call it. So let me get that library here. Apache connection pool jar files. Tomcat DBCP. In the form of jar file they given that third party library. New basic data source. The class name is basic data source. And the job of this basic data source is connection pool creation. Or let me name it basic data source. You can create a basic data source object with set a driver class name, same class name, oracle.jdbc.oracle driver, username, password, set driver, set URL. What is that? JDBC colon, oracle colon, then colon at the rate localhost 521x. and the username password. System password is admin. How many maximum connections you want? Data source dot set maximum connections. As I have 20, I'll put 15 only here. And you can put waiting time also. Set max wait time. How many milliseconds you want to wait? Maybe 500 milliseconds. But beyond that, you need not to wait. If connection not available, I'll find a different approach. But within that time, it can have able to handle. Now using this connection pool, let me try to do this insert operation. For loop int I equal to 0, I less than 5000 records I'll insert. I plus plus. See how much time also it will take. Here I need a connection. So from data source I'll get the connection. Data source dot get connection. Use this data source. From connection pool you are getting connection here. Execute your statement. Insert and then select. Maybe let's avoid this select. It will confuse you. Just insert I am doing here. And finally closing connections. Now in this scenario you should not call it as close. Return connection. It will return connection to pool only. And here it will get connection from pool. Get connection from pool only. 5000 times I'm trying to executing it and try to close this statement also. It's a good way to code. So 5000 times without interruption. If you try to execute it, system.out.println, after execution I'm printing just date. Run this code. Finally, right, once you're done with this, consider your application is shutting down. Your application is shutting down. Close the data source also. I'm just shutting down data source. Execute it. So in 9:51, 27 seconds. 9:51, 32 seconds. Between how many seconds? 5 seconds only. In out. Within 5 seconds, it is inserted 5000 records. If you don't believe me, go to database and check. Earlier the count is 23, now 5000. 5023 it should be. Check the count. 5023 records inserted. If you have doubt, check. Only 5 seconds it took. Check. 5023 rows. it got inserted. Average how much time it has taken, we calculate 5 seconds divided by 5000. Average 0.001 millisecond. That means per second it executed 1000 inserts. See how much fast it is. Same code only, same database only I used, but why this much performance difference? That all because of this basic data source. Connection pool is making it happening. Connection pools always powerful. They'll increase application performance hundreds times. Simple technique. Without connection pool, we should never write any database logic. Generally, when we go to advanced coding, right, you need not to worry about it. In Spring Boot, especially Spring Boot, do all these connection pools also it will create for you. But we should know right before that what is the use of it. Okay. Tomorrow I'll explain about complete connection pooling with all available implementations. Okay. But this is what connection pool will provide it to you in simple words. Am I clear? Yeah. Waiting time for the user. Maximum waiting time to make, see here 15 connections only I have. Okay. So here it is small SQL query, it is executing in 0.001 microsecond. But if you have 10 SQL queries here, they might take 10 milliseconds or 20 milliseconds if you have select operations, insert, delete, something. So for first to 15 users, it will give connections. The remaining users need to wait in the queue. Up to how much time it can make them wait in the queue? Up to 0.5 milliseconds. Beyond that also, if it say connections not available, connections busy, then it will give error to them. You are waiting for the maximum time. Maybe you request it again. But mostly that will not happen. This is maximum waiting time for the user. This loop, while iterating this loop, if connection not available, it will wait here for the connection. But it's not happening. It's continuously running because very fast your inserts are happening. Okay, maximum waiting time for the user. Okay, clear? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give you all the jars also. For this simple example, I used simple. For this example, I used Tomcat jar file, but there are many implementations. Okay, I'll give you all the implementations, and we will write this code with the Spring. I just use simple core Java logic here. We will use Spring. As I was telling you, right, this all configuration stuff we do under @bean method. Okay, so we need to understand that creating connection pool is not a big thing. Easily you can get the, you know, this topic easily you can understand and do it. We should understand where we should place this logic. Okay, tomorrow we'll see all the connection pool types and we will integrate with Spring.